Alright, welcome back to the Agamemnon game review. Today we're bringing you the World of Warcraft. Today's recording was recorded on the 14th of August 2018. It's actually our second day of playing the launch for the Battle of Azeroth. This is the third recording. The recording that precedes this one took a long time to get it up to YouTube. Several sessions, as it wasn't cooperating correctly, so I had to end up breaking that into two parts. And from that I decided to make all the other videos down into half-hour segments. And the actual recording, when I recorded today, I only record for about an hour. And therefore I break it down into two parts, and then I plan to upload it on a daily basis as much as possible. So here we are. We're getting going. Last we left off, we had returned back to the temple. We explored the dock area of Zandalari on our Horde character. You may not know, I primarily play Horde, so all the videos here will pretty much be Horde. My approach to the game is relatively slower than other people, and I like to take my time. Whenever I log into any game, the first thing I always do is let it know that greatness has arrived. And send a whisper out to people. I don't really know who that is. I only know him as Ed. He plays Star Trek Online a lot. It's in my fleet in Star Trek Online on the PC. So go. This is my Lurch Manos, the Patient. My Forsaken on Moonguard server. Moonguard is a heavy populated RP server. Well known to a lot of people that play World of Warcraft. So at this point we're still level 110. We're slowly gaining our Azeroth. Haven't played any raids. We only got one improvement to the Heart of Azeroth there. Which, as I'm sitting down to record this, is Saturday night, Sunday morning, so I'm actually further along in the story than what the video is at, so although not that much further, but it's gonna be, I remember what I was doing. So here we are, going along. The thing I always do when I get started is check my equipment, remember where I was at. I always replenish my health stones and my soul stone. Check my talents. I don't vary my talents too much. Because we're using the Heart of Azeroth, I took the one that primarily buffs the demonologies. I don't know at this point if we're going to get the other two ones later on, but when we went to you saw in the previous video, well, it actually wasn't in the video because it was the part that was cut off. When you initially start your quest here, you go down to Silithus with meet Magni Bronzebeard, and you repair the fissures in the Azeroth, and they reward you this amulet, which doesn't make any sense in the lore, because in before the storm, Azeroth was like she was dying, don't use Azerite, boo. And now she gives you this thing and said, here, go free fall and multiply. Here's all the different portals. I needed to go back to Orgrimmar. That's what needed to happen. So I always like, if I have to go to Orgrimmar, I usually do it early in the evening or later in the evening. Orgrimmar has kind of become my central hub. although I spent more time in the Undercity, but as you know, Undercity was lost in the Battle of Lordaeron, so we technically can go back there, but the Forsaken are technically in the lore from a role-playing perspective. We're refugees now. So Sylvanas has sent us to establish diplomatic relations with the Zandalari, which I think we're having a positive effect. We only been there a couple hours, so trying to get my bearings on how to get back to the portal. See, they're slowly adding more and more portals to here. One thing I like with Orgrimmar that's different than Stormwind is that the places you go where the different portals are at are a little more easier to get to. When you go to Stormwind, you gotta go all the way back to Stormwind Keep. You gotta search every little room. And they're not all in the same place. And personally, I've never really spent a lot of time in Dalaran, so I don't really know. Cause even on my Alliance character, I never really spent a lot of time in Dalaran. So I know you can go to the little mage area there and grab the portals there, but see, Dalaran always seems like a faraway place for me, especially since I'm on the Horde side. Although my main Horde character, she's at 97 now, which I plan to play on Sunday. Plan to make Sunday my official night I do older quest. Whereas, so I'm doing 5 nights out a week, I'm doing the current lore. And then 1 night out of the week I'm doing past lore to get that character caught up. And Saturday night I kind of want to leave, or Saturday afternoon, I kind of want to leave for processing video and get them all up on YouTube and scheduled. Right now I got 2 videos up. I got them scheduled for Monday and Tuesday to be released at 6 a.m. in the morning. So this video will definitely be Wednesday's video. I decided to break these down into half-hour episodes, so I think that's pretty good. Hour is, once we're able to stream the game, I'll be able to do that. But for now, I think it's, if anyone's following the lore with me, half-hour installments are probably the more marketable thing. And those of you that have been following my streaming channel on YouTube, I just started streaming on Twitch this week, so my overall business plan is to do the live stream on Twitch, then export it over to YouTube, and then I feel as both YouTube and Twitch channel grow, and what will probably happen with most people is they'll go back and look at all your older videos, and so what we have to do now, while our audience is small, is build up that library of videos so that people in the future will be able to see all our past stuff. Rich content that they can delve into. This is the time to create that. Now my thing definitely is Warlock. I don't claim to be the most knowledgeable person using Warlock, although I feel that I've been playing Warlock long enough since the launch of the game. And I've seen it through all its different incarnations that I'm very comfortable playing Warlock, and I like how I set up, and I play enough to where I see other people playing it. I see where they either get stuck in a niche or they don't really, I call it economize the Warlock how I believe it should be played. I think one of the problems that a lot of people have is get fixated on playing one type of Warlock or flavor of the month type of Warlock, and I don't think that's good. One thing that Demon Warlock, I think a lot of people underestimate just how strong your little horde of demons are, and you need to learn how to deploy those demons, and more than just at 1 or 2 targets. Really, to use them effectively to cause a type of effect or elimination. So here we go. We've come back to Zandalari to resume our quest. As I stated before in the last 2 videos, I don't like to load down my quest pad with them. I pretty much like to go to one quest guy, get the quest, go do it, and come back, and then follow the string of stories that are connected with that guy. And that's because I've been playing these kind of games since the 1980s. Actually, before that, the end of the like 78, 79. Although the games in the late 70s and early 80s weren't like graphically as intense as these, and they weren't multiplayer games. They were basically single player little 16-bit 8-bit characters, Atari type characters, and but they were cool, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Pitfall Harry type games. What they call the scroll, side-by scroll, sideways scroll type games.
Do you need protection?
One thing that I really like, and I've only seen like people who've been posting stuff on YouTube, mainly on the Alliance side, but I feel that Zandalari has a lot more like pretty visual effects, whereas Colterra seems like an old country. Everything's established, everything's sort of run down looking. Whereas you come to Zandalari, everything's like bright colors, everything's a stone building. At least in the parts I've been to, there's a lot of jungle. The people are integrated into the land, and it's kind of cool because it's kind of a troll-based
What is your business here?
sort of part of the lore. Troll-heavy lore. Which is kind of good because they kind of go into a lot more about the Lua, which I like. And if you play through the End of Legion and through the pre-patch stuff, Legion pretty much you had a very heavy, I guess the Draenei were the heavy alliance part of the story. So before the storm in Lordaeron deals a lot with the Forsaken, and then immediately you're thrown into working with the trolls, which I think are kind of interesting. So we have to go up north. I've never been there before, so I was kind of looking at what was the most scenic route I can go, and I prefer to walk everywhere, but I decided to take the horse. Put the pet away. A proper warlock always puts their demons away. Strategically, I want to get up to this area so I can get this travel point. We still haven't got to that first guy yet, but I figure we'll slowly get up there. Those of you that are not familiar with role-playing, role-playing can come in several different stages. If you get with a really good group and you role play with them a lot, people read the dialogue and you get into the speaking and characters, and that's kind of cool. But most role players, if you're single person playing, you don't really do any of that because it would be kind of goofy. But I do like to read the dialogue. As we get into more of the streaming type of presentation, I'll do that. But where we're recording the video and then going back later to do the dialogue replacement, I kind of think it's silly. And also, it's kind of small in Premiere to read the words, so it's hard to read. Although I can't make out the words, it's very difficult to read. You could say, well, you just have to zoom it in with Premiere. I don't want to do all that. So here we are. Take a minute to take a look around, get my bearings. Make sure I'm going the right path. Now, because I'm a psychology major and I have a minor in anthropology, when I play a lot of these games, I'm really fascinated by the psychology. And when you use the term like psychology, what that means is you're interested in the mental process and behavior of the different people you encounter in the game. It's fascinating. And I'm really interested in the politics of the culture, which is more of an anthropology sort of perspective. My minor in anthropology, my focus is in linguistic anthropology. So you get to study people through languages. And you have to study languages that aren't spoken anymore. Try to figure out what they are. And learn the culture through their language. How people communicate. It's kind of cool. So here this guy's sending on this mission. Forbidden practice. We gotta go,
find Hex Lord Ral down at the other end of the terrace. Be sure to insult him for me.
basically what's happening here is hidden amongst the populace are villains, and we're going to expose them using this device they gave us. Now keep in mind, we already know as characters reading the dialogue of some of the characters and NPCs and the main, the king and stuff. There's sort of a struggle going on with the king, the government. There's kind of a hidden thing going on with the dark forces and the populace. The trolls, like the trolls in Kalimdor, are a very ritualistic society. Their religion is, in anthropology, would be kind of a shaman type religion. If you study anthropology, one of the first things you learn in lower level anthropology is the difference between a shaman and a priest. Though they're similar in the function that they provide the society, priests are more religious, whereas a shaman isn't necessarily a religious person. Although in a lot of these games, the shaman do perform the religious service. That's not always the case with societies that are more tribal in nature. Whereas in tribal culture, a shaman holds a lot of political power in favor because you're using an elder. Whereas a priest isn't necessarily a political leader. Although in the Catholic Church, a priest is a representative, is part of the government, going all the way up to the Pope. But outside of the Catholic Church, the priest is more of a lay leader, clergy. So, not really a political leader. Why I'm rambling on about shaman is that I think that's important to know when you're traveling around as a role player, talking with the trolls in this case. And we're sent here to try to understand the politics that are going on, the different forces at work, why the people are doing what they're doing, and this is going to help to influence our decision later on when we start getting into the different conflicts. What we have to do now as a representative of the Horde in the Forsaken is we have to start building up a reputation with the Zandalari, which is why I started my quest central to where the king was at. I figured deal with that closer to the town. As we go further out, we're going to establish a better political base to go deal with the stuff in the north. And one thing that I read recently, this guy was giving an essay on the Battle of Gettysburg, and he was saying, wars are political, and all military actions are political. And the military's function is to carry out political action for the government. So we are champions of the Horde, and we're in the middle of a war, and it's with the Alliance, and we have to establish political relations with this culture that would help influence our military, make us a stronger military power in the world compared to the Alliance. One underlying theme that I think a lot of people who follow World of Warcraft overlook is if you look at the Alliance from a cultural point of view, the Alliance is more, although they have magic, the way magic's used in their society is more scientific, and it's sort of they sort of divide things like a scientist would into parse things into functional things. Whereas you look at the Horde side, they don't really do that. They embrace technology and they embrace new things into their culture. And their culture is based on war and warfare. And the magic in that sense is there to support the war and warfare. So it's a very different perspective. And I think it's important to understand in World of Warcraft, when someone like Sylvanas talks about peace, or someone like Anduin talks about peace, they mean very different things to someone in the Horde and someone in the Alliance. I think where a lot of people get confused is they try to act like peace is a universal definition between Horde and Alliance, and are not. They're functionally different. And paralleling that with mages in arcane magic, it's very different than the magic that's practiced in the Horde, although they have mages in the Horde. Magic in the Horde tends to be
speak and the lower listen.
I think organic in the society.
When the lower speak, be sure to listen.
And you see this parallel in the story with the Zandalari, and then if you parallel to what's happening in Kultaris, the way magic is represented in both cultures is very different. First I was trying to figure out what to do. They didn't really give me any real clear instructions, so I kind of read through the directions a little bit more, and then kind of did a little experiment here. Just hit a button, see what happens. I got my guys staged for military action if necessary. One thing before the battle starts here, when I went back to Orgrimmar, one of the things I was trying to find out was how transmog was affected with the Battle of Azeroth, with the new gear that we're getting. And I wanted to go, for a role player, transmog is very important. More important than the war. Here I am, reading the things again. Because these guys are all neutral. I can't just start attacking neutral people. I mean, I can, but I don't think that's what they were wanting us to do. Because if you start killing people, that will not give you political favoritism amongst the populace. So there, let's try an experiment here. See what would happen. Naturally, battle begins. And focusing more on Demon Warlock here. What I like to do is I keep my Void Walker on defense. So if people attack me, he'll naturally protect me. Because he can taunt, draws the people away from me. And then I normally open up with the Shadow Bolt to get my soul shards pumping out. And then I open up with the Hand of Gul'dan. And then based on the initial opening strike, I then figure out what demon to use next. I try to, the talents I selected, I have it where I can summon my Felguard. I do have a Felguard on my actual demon roster, but I don't like to use him because he's really an offensive demon. And I think it's better when you're walking around to have your more defensive unit out. Because a demonologist is more tanky than the other two, and the Void Walker complements your tanking ability a little more. And when you have the Void Walker out in this sort of setup, you're really strangely in the role of what a healer would be in a normal party. You're essentially buffing and debuffing people, and if the tank needs health, you heal the tank, basically. And then you position your offensive pieces, which would be your imps and your Fellhounds. And then I have it set so my Fellhounds don't actually they don't automatically light up. I like to manually control them, and then I cast them when it's necessary. And then I have a nice horde of the main demons, which I have up top there, starting with the Vile Fiend, the Bomber Bats, I call them, the Fell Guard, the Tyrant Commander, the Nether Portal demons, and then the Guard. The Guard demon you get through when you switch on War Mode, which is kind of cool. And I use him a little bit, but how he's designed to be used is if you have ads that sort of come running at you, you cast him and he acts as a rear guard for you. So when anybody crosses that little circle, he'll start attacking them. Which is good for guarding your flanks and rear. That way you can keep your main demons, offensive demons, fighting forward. Now I use my bombers as the artillery, which artillery is there to mask the camp. So like a bunch of people run at me, I do my artillery assault and drop a bunch of bats on them.